Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. Well, bad news today for the city's Bandshell. The historic event space in Jackson Park will not be restored. We have more on that tonight. Plus, a new initiative in Ford City is giving micro businesses the space, albeit a tiny one, to set up their first physical location. And big changes are coming to Windsor's trash collection. You won't see changes for another couple years, but we'll give you the update tonight. The historic Bandshell at Jackson Park will not be restored. That's the decision of a city committee just today. The stage used to be a big part of the community, which includes being the centerpiece for Emancipation Day festivities decades ago. Dale Molnar tells us what's next.
Administration engage in a feasibility study on the Bandshell.
Councillor Fabio Costante wanted to move ahead with a $100,000 feasibility study to try to restore the historic Jackson Park Bandshell. Instead, the Community Services Committee wants to open up public consultations to preserve the structure but not restore it to its former glory.
You know, if you want to see a plaque there, what color would you like to see it painted? I don't know where this is going to go, but the conversation will not be about restoring it to its use as a bandshell.
The black woman known is Harriet Tubman, who brought thousands of people here.
But Lana Talbot of the Black Council of Windsor-Essex is upset with the decision not to restore it fully.
Emancipation started back in 1833, and here we are in 2023, and they're still treating us the exact same way, like we do not matter. And for those councillors, shame on them. Shame on them.
The bandshell has sat unused and deteriorating for about 30 years. It was once the focal point for Emancipation Day events. Motown greats played there, such as Stevie Wonder and Diana Ross and the Supremes.
My position is that the bandshell, its history and heritage, deserves a feasibility study, and we should be doing that in concert with community consultation to look at all of our options. And I would love to see that space get restored and revitalized and activated again.
Councillor Ronaldo Agostino doesn't think it's a viable option to restore the bandshell to be used again for venues. He agrees, however, the history of the bandshell needs to be preserved in some way and the community needs to be consulted.
And I think these are the conversations we're going to have with the stakeholders and the people, the community in general, is what do we do with this stage that it means so much to our community, means so much to our history, but is really unusable in its current state and in its current location.
Agostino will be meeting with Talbot tomorrow to start informal discussions. The recommendation to begin a consultation process still has to go to City Council for approval. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
Taking the leap to start a small business can be challenging. In Windsor's Ford City, they're trying to make it easier by offering out shed space, which serves as storefronts for businesses who are getting up and running. CBC's Dawson Chen introduces us to the program and a couple of the current vendors.
This might be a humble shed, but it's fulfillment of a dream for Windsor crafter Cynthia Niratuze. Her business, Isha Studio, makes Rwandan-style woven housewares, jewelry, and fashions. Niratuze is the first tenant in a new program by the Ford City BIA, offering sheds as business spaces.
I thought it was like such an interesting idea, and I applied, and now we're here. I've always operated online, but I always like to go to markets to get like the human contact. So it's always been a dream for me to eventually open a shop.
Rent for the sheds is just $300 a month with no long-term contract. The sheds are equipped with air conditioning and power outlets, but they aren't designed for the cold, so they'll be closed during the winter. The sheds are so small, there's only room inside for 2 people at a time. One of the goals of the initiative is to help out micro businesses that were previously online only.
We're having conversations about bringing some small vendors to the neighborhood. The BI had some leftover funds from COVID, and we thought this is a really good way that we could improve business in the neighborhood by purchasing these sheds and then using them as little pop-ups for small retailers to open up and essentially prove the concept.
Isha Studio isn't the only business taking advantage of the program. Just next door, Anita Kaza has been setting up a shed for her business, 1-2 Puff.
1-2 Puff is a kawaii or anime and nerdy boutique. We carry apparel, home decor, I do custom ashtrays, and lots of other cool nerdy products. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of Ford City. When I heard about the opportunity, I'd always wanted to have my own storefront, so it just seemed like a perfect fit.
The lot currently has 2 sheds that cost the BIA around $4,000 each. Potvin says there's room for more. The program launched last month, and the BIA intends to continue it on a seasonal basis in 2024 and beyond. Dalson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
There's a big change happening to trash collection in Windsor. Your garbage will be collected every 2 weeks instead of weekly like it is right now. The changes come into place in 2025. The city is doing this because of the introduction of an organic waste program, which is also supposed to be starting around the same time.
I know that there's going to be an education component to this, but give it a few weeks.
That guy's got a big
and I trust
black
that
eye.
all our residents are going to actually love this. I mean, we're 20 years behind or more from, putting us up against other municipalities. So I'm really excited about this.
The province is requiring most municipalities in Windsor, Essex to have an organic waste program in place by 2025. So Windsor plans to collect your kitchen scraps every week, and non-organic waste like plastics and food wrapping will be picked up every 2 weeks. The city is also looking at how they'll collect dirty diapers. It's concerned about the smell if trash is only picked up once every couple weeks. An idea being floated is allowing people to drop off those dirty diapers at the public depot. Well, every 40 days, a Windsor business hands out free food to the community. They've been doing it for the past 3 years. Today, volunteers with the Imam Hussein Foundation handed out 1,500 meals. It's a way for them to commemorate the sacrifice of a religious figure in Islam. The CBC's TJ Deere caught up with the volunteers as the meals were being handed out.
Today we're giving back. We're going back to the city, to the community, and as we always been doing. We always try to feed the homeless, help the people in need, and we're doing this for a cause for Imam Hussein.
This is basically just to remind us of what they went through and the hunger that they went through during that time, and it's extremely important.
Today we're serving rice with meat, beans, and it's all put in together. So they started last night at 12 o'clock. The chef put in all the meat together, and they just finished like an hour ago. It was actually prepped at Imam Hussein Foundation, but the meat, rice, all came out from Prince House.
When you manage a small business, how can you afford to give away 1,500 free meals?
We try to save up. We save up monthly. There's every month we take some out so we can be able to do this, and other people help. We have a lot of people from the community that come in and help, and they say, okay, you guys doing this, so they try to bring some stuff in, like maybe donate money, donate like whatever they can. People get very happy. People say, oh, good, like we still have people in this world now that want to give, not take, give. Yeah. It's good to give, because the more you give, the more people hear about it, and inside people change, and they say, okay, we want to help too. Yeah, like last year was not like this. Last year was just me, my brother, and the other guy. Now today we have more people coming in.
These guys that did all this work, they cannot be talked about enough. They've done a lot, and thanks to them, we're getting this food.
This large fire burning at a scrapyard in Chatham prompted officials to urge anyone nearby to shut their windows and doors today. Thick black smoke filled the area around Queens Line and Bloomfield Road. It's coming from the A. Gold & Sons scrapyard. Fire officials say there are no reports of any injuries. As widely expected, the Bank of Canada is holding its key interest rate unchanged at 5%. The announcement today to keep rates steady comes amid mounting signs that the economy is slowing. But the central bank remains concerned about underlying inflation and says they're keeping the doors open to more hikes if necessary. The central bank has raised rates 10 times since March of last year. Well, insurance fraud experts are calling vehicle theft a national crisis. A CBC News investigation has tracked down vehicles stolen from Canadian driveways all the way to Africa. David Common breaks down the workings of a vast criminal network that seems to view Canada as a target.
Here in the West African nation of Ghana, there are a lot of signs of Canada, because if you know someone who's had their vehicle stolen, or if you've had your vehicle stolen, there's a decent chance it's ended up here. Take a look and I'll explain what we mean here. So, Dodge Ram here, this one, we took a look inside. There's insurance documents for the original owner, North York, Ontario. It was likely stolen out of their driveway at night, although we are now seeing increasing carjackings, more violence that's used in what is a surging crime in Canada run by organized crime. And the authorities in Ghana are pleading with Canadian authorities to do something about it, to take more action, because in just the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area, 27,000 vehicles were stolen last year. It's not just Toronto either. Take a look. The original license plate from Quebec on this Ford F-150. You know, up here, that's a CRV. This vehicle came out of New Jersey. But for the most part, these are Canadian vehicles, 2/3 of them in this lot seized by authorities here in Ghana. This particular vehicle, see if we can pull it off here. This, we know, is from Ottawa. Reported stolen, was attempting to be sold here. How do they get here? Well, inevitably, when they get stolen, they rapidly get put onto trucks, onto trains, and into the port of Montreal. They are shipped onwards from that point and get to places like this, get to Ghana, but get beyond, get throughout Africa and the Middle East, where they are sold as legitimate vehicles driven by people. And of course, it's costing Canadians dearly as our insurance rates go up to pay for this surging auto theft. David Common, CBC News, Accra, Ghana.
With fall courses beginning, university students across the country are hitting the books, taking notes, and writing essays. At least that's what academic leaders are hoping in the age of new artificial intelligence tools such as ChatGPT. CBC's Emily Brass explains.
First-year students at the University of Manitoba are getting their bearings on campus. They're also navigating the university's recent guidelines on powerful new AI tools like ChatGPT.
If you're in a writing block, you can get something going, and then you can definitely build off of it. Google and YouTube is more confusing. ChatGPT can give more specific information.
ChatGPT is a bit like a search engine, but with very specific, tailored results. For instance, you can type in a question like, what role did Louis Riel play in forming Manitoba? And a history essay pops up on the screen within seconds.
ChatGPT can work on anything from poetry to statistics. That's a growing concern for the university. Cases of plagiarism using the app are on the rise.
You know, instructors can note when there's changes in your writing. It's many times what we see with ChatGPT is that the writing is very generic, very vague.
He saw several cases a week over the summer session. At the start of the year, there were nearly none.
There's even been instances where ChatGPT was sometimes left in the essay at the bottom of the page.
The student union is spreading the word.
But the penalties can range anywhere from an F on the assignment all the way to disenrollment. And especially for international students, the consequences are very, very severe because it can impact and affect their visa.
They say, when in doubt, ask your instructor if it's okay.
I used it to find the articles, and I went to read the articles that I needed to use, and those are the ones which I referenced in my paper. So I think that was an appropriate way to use that.
If you can't beat them, join them.
Nursing prof Kim Mitchell told her students, go ahead and try it.
I thought there's no way that ChatGPT could write this assignment. There's literally no way.
She made the project complicated, requiring hands-on work and analysis, things ChatGPT isn't good at yet. Most of her students said they won't use it again.
As a human, you have the ability to discriminate between what's good information and what's not good information. Because if you just indiscriminately put everything in that ChatGPT did, you probably would not be very high quality work.
But with AI getting better all the time, the university expects to see more students cutting corners with ChatGPT. Emily Brass, CBC News, Winnipeg.
There's a tug-of-war battle brewing along the riverfront between Windsor and Detroit. That's the main event at this weekend's Windsor Fire Fest. But the connection between the two cities' fire departments goes beyond the rope. Video producer Mike Evans went to the riverfront today for a preview.
We are so happy to be back. This is definitely a challenge every year. 24 guys on each side, and you're actually pulling 1,000 feet of cord into each port. So the first firefighting group that pulls 1,000 feet into their port wins.
Talk about the unique relationship between the Detroit and Windsor fire departments.
They helped us in a fire late 1800s. We went over there in the riots. The relationship we continue to this generation is the best. These guys are the best. So this weekend, we're gonna have Fire Fest down here, and to tie it in, we're gonna have the tug going off September the 9th at 5:30 p.m. Long-standing tradition, back and forth between Detroit and Windsor firefighters. The score is 13-12 for these guys. Here's the trophy. It's staying in Canadian ground. And it was a big event. It was tied into the International Freedom Festival, and it would go during there. And I've seen pictures, and you see Dieppe Park packed. Thousands of people watching the tug-of-war. So we're hoping every year it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
As you can see, it's a marriage made in heaven. It's wonderful.
Here. Nope, too far. I got you. Easy, just easy. One more.
New pickleball courts were unveiled today at Fontainebleau Park. The park is one of 3 in the city, which recently got 4 new pickleball courts and a tennis court. The other 2 are Golden Wood Park in South Windsor and Wilson Park in the West End, which also has a new basketball court. The city spent $1.5 million, which is part of a 10-year capital plan for parks and recreation. Later this year, the 80 Knox community will also get new pickleball courts, a splash pad, and a playground. That's a live look at the tower cam right now. That second day of school looking a little different than the first. We have your weather forecast coming up after the break. The Northern Hemisphere has been having its hottest summer on record. According to figures released today by the UN, last month was the hottest August ever recorded. July surpassed all records and was the hottest month ever, and June broke records as well.
Earth just had its hottest 3-month period on record, with unprecedented sea surface temperatures and much extreme weather.
The scientists say it's not just the record high temperatures that cause concern, but the persistence of the conditions that lead to the records. So far, September temperatures are well above normal. That was evident yesterday as students headed back to class, including here in Windsor. Some school boards in Ontario and Quebec even took special precautions like suspending outdoor activities. Others rotated students between their classrooms and air-conditioned parts of the school. Some canceled classes altogether. Well, Colette, the UN's saying it's the hottest summer on record for the Northern Hemisphere, but it certainly didn't feel all that warm in Windsor, Essex this summer. Like maybe it was the storms? I don't know.
No, absolutely, you're right. A very, very fair point because, you know, this is a global. They're looking at the kind of mean temperatures and for the Northern Hemisphere, and sure, in northeastern North America, we actually saw temperatures a little below seasonal. It doesn't mean that can't happen, but when you look at the big picture, and you know, this data is compiled by it's a European agency, Copernicus, and they've been keeping those records since 1940. So when we look at that, we have to look at human-induced climate change. There are some other things. It's an El Nino year. We know we've reduced aerosols, but certainly this is being exacerbated by our own actions. And, you know, we've had a couple of hot days, but then some of the cloud cover showers today. And so locally, yeah, it was above normal, but still only 26 and not back up towards the 30s. A lot of humidity. We know our lows certainly are still running well above seasonal. And so we have that heat warning in place. But there's a look at those current temperatures. We really did dip with some of the showers, then kind of came back up. The humidex value, at least it's under 35. That heat warning will likely be dropped for tomorrow, although there's still going to be some humidity around. But it's this very dramatic line here, the change in the temperatures. That's where the cold front is, and where we'll really see the wind shift is once that moves through. So along it, there have certainly been some lightning strikes and some thunderstorm activity. At the moment, that's pushed out of southwestern Ontario. Some warnings up around Huntsville towards Georgian Bay. There's still some development, though, back to the southwest, so some isolated showers and thunderstorms into the later evening hours. Yeah, I would expect that. And then through the overnight, we could have a few. And then we get into kind of breaks tomorrow, but you can't rest on your laurels because there'll still be that instability. So some pop-ups showing up, and then those winds will be changing direction. So we'll get kind of that push out ahead of this of a southwesterly flow, as we've been seeing. And then once that front goes through, those winds will actually turn more towards the north or northwest. And that's when the cooler air will really kind of filter in for Friday. And we'll still keep that cloud deck in place into Friday and some isolated showers in there. Overnight temperatures tonight, 18 to 20 degrees, still some of that humidity through the overnight hours. And because the heat warnings have to do with overnight lows, not just the daytime highs, that's why it'll likely stay in place. But then into Thursday, feeling a little bit more comfortable, still somewhat humid, way down for those temperatures and the humidity, though, as we're approaching the weekend. And we should get out of that instability, Meg, too, and see some improvement.
I like these temperatures. I mean, September, the beginning of September, that's looking pretty nice.
Yeah, it is. It is going to be much more comfortable, too. But if you like the heat, hey, we've had a little dose of that as well.
That's me. That's me. I like the heat. Thanks so much for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
Well, if the concept of digging for treasure has even intrigued you, you're going to like a story we have coming up about the discovery of ancient weapons. The Rolling Stones arrived at a theater in London today to launch the band's first album of original music since 2005. The surviving members, Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and Ronnie Wood, appeared on stage to discuss the recording of the album. Richards spoke about drummer Charlie Watts, who died 2 years ago.
I think because of Charlie passing, and we felt that we're still going and that we should still retain an identity and still say, hey, it's only rock and roll, but you know, here we are. Charlie would, I felt in a way that was, made this record because Charlie sort of said, do it.
The three musicians waved to their fans who were treated to the premiere of a video showcasing one of the new songs. Band members did a live streamed interview with talk show host Jimmy Fallon. The new album consists of a dozen tracks. It features rock, ballads, dance, and some songs that Jagger describes as, quote, a country-ish kind of thing. Watts' drumming, recorded in 2019, can be heard on 2 of the album's tracks. A supply of ancient weapons has been unearthed in a cave near the Dead Sea in Israel.
Oh my God! Whoa.
Archaeologists have recovered 4 swords that date back nearly 2,000 years. It's thought they're Roman weapons taken by Jewish rebels in a revolt against Roman rule sometime between 132 and 135 AD. The cave, which is in the desert overlooking the Dead Sea, was a hideout for rebels against the Romans, who controlled what was then Judea. A coin from the era has also been found. Well, one giant panda in a zoo in southern Japan is celebrating her birthday in fine fashion. She enjoyed an icy treat and some bamboo shoots to mark her 23rd birthday, which is about 70 in human years. In 2008, she became the first giant panda born in Japan to give birth. She had twins and went on to have 8 more cubs. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.